name is Noah Rayner, and I spent 6 weeks in Louisville, Kentucky, studying rehabilitation post-spinal cord injury. I'm from Montezuma Cortez High School in Cortez, Colorado. So, yeah. The first thing I did before and during my internship was I had to study a lot about the anatomy in relation to spinal cord injuries. So the first thing I learned basically was how our bodies have a spinal cord, what we use them for, and what can go wrong at what level those injuries can vary in the severity of them. So we learned a lot about at what level they have a spinal cord injury and which kind of trauma can occur because of it. So for example, if you get it at like a T10 level in the middle of your back, perhaps you don't lose the ability to control your diaphragm, but you might not be in control of all of your body systems or your lower extremities. So we also, me and the other intern, we had to learn a lot about the anatomy and also how they use that sort of classification called the ASIA exam in their assessments of spinal cord injuries. So this chart that you see is called the ASIA examination, and it is how they classify the severity of spinal cord injuries. So that was a lot of what I did, is I had to learn first about what I was going to be researching before I could actually apply that knowledge. The work I did, however, was mostly on the 9th floor of the Fraser Rehab Institute, and it was with therapy sessions for individuals with CSI. So for these sessions, you could either receive electrical stimulation or you would be without electrical stimulation. And we would use these different therapies as a way to try and rebuild muscle mass in legs after they had lost the ability to have voluntary movement. So a lot of what I did was, as you can see in these lower pictures, there's a lot of computer setup. My job was to help the physical therapist set up and to help run the tracking program that recorded not any like unplanned events during it, but it helped record vitals, it helped record the exercises that they would do, and it basically gave us a way to measure progress throughout this standing session. On the 14th floor, I believe this is where I worked with the engineering team at Fraser Rehab Institute. So we built a lot of in-house equipment for any of their studies they were doing. We helped to rebuild any equipment we needed. So the main thing you can see here is not only the 14th floor, which is the top right photo for you guys, but also we did an overweight body support system. So that way when an individual is walking on a treadmill, they can be supported from the chest above. So not all of their weight is dependent onto their legs, and we can get their legs to walk. So that was part we did. We also built a pan project for individuals with SCI, so they can continue to cook and bake without having to be limited by that. I also worked on the 15th and 11th floors of Fraser Rehab because I had a very mixed and well-rounded internship. So I helped to write medical assessments to be put onto the website. I wrote the descriptions of what would go on in those proceedings. I also would help set up with the electrodes for electrical stimulation and different kind of assessments. And I made computer programs that would then be used to show the participant what exercises they would do during their sessions. So I did a lot of computer work, and I watched a lot of assessments like functional MRI scans and different kind of medical tests. The main thing I learned really is a lot of the effects that can happen after spinal cord injury, and a lot of what you would do to help an individual sort of prepare for life after injury if they couldn't recover. So the main thing I learned really was that it's not just loss of your limbs, but it is also loss of body systems, it's a loss of ability for sensation, and a lot of other secondary effects that you don't normally consider. What surprised me a lot is the amount of people in America and in the world in general that have a spinal cord injury. It's not something I ever thought was very common, but there's over 1.25 million people in America that suffer from it. So it's very widespread. It's not isolated to a certain population, and it can be caused by a number of things, the most common being motor vehicle accidents. What I did for fun is we went swimming. It was like 107 degrees there a couple of days, so we spent a lot of time at the pool. We also went to Mammoth Cave, and we went backpacking and hiking, and we went to music concerts. So I want to say thank you to Fraser Rehab because they allowed me a wonderful internship, and I appreciate it. and also to my 2 host families because they were more than welcoming, and I appreciate them. Thank you.